Hi, welcome to this tutorial on using si in complex sentences. Okay, now this little word si, meaning if, is a very useful little word to help us create more interesting, higher level sentences. So that we'll sort of use it in these sentences where we're talking about hypothetical situations. This sort of idea of if something else happens, then something else might happen. So let's look at some examples in English to start off with. So if we start off with, if I study, I succeed, or I'm successful. Yeah. Or if I work hard, I get good results. So if I study, I succeed. You've got this if, then. We could put then in there, couldn't we? We don't have to have it. So if I do this, then something else happens. Or if I study, I will succeed. Yeah, if I study, I will succeed. Or we could have if I studied, I would succeed. And finally, if I had studied, I would have, no, it doesn't not very clear. Oh, I would have succeeded. Yeah. So let's have a look. They're all just if, they're all kind of given the same idea, really, aren't they? But there's some differences. Okay, and we're going to look at how we could do these in French. So look at the first one. If I study, I succeed. Now that's pretty likely, isn't it? This is a likely scenario. I'm sort of saying, but if I study, I'm going to be successful. Yeah. Same for the second one. Yeah. If I study, I will succeed. You're pretty sure of that. Yeah. You're saying it's basically your hard work pays off. Yeah. However, let's have a look at if I studied, I would succeed. Now that's a bit more level of uncertainty there, isn't it? It's slightly more unlikely. If I studied, I would succeed. There's this would here. There's condition attached to it. Okay. So you're saying you're not sure. Yeah, it's unlikely. And my final one, if I had studied, I would have succeeded. Well, that's impossible because it's been and gone now, isn't it? Okay, this might be what your parents might say to you sometimes, you know, oh, if you'd studied, you would have succeeded. Well, it's impossible now. You can't do anything about it, can you? Okay, whereas this one here, if you studied, you would succeed. There's a chance there. Okay, so we've got these different levels of likeliness, unlikely, and impossible. Okay, and there's different things we're going to look at doing in French. But before we go into French, let's have a look at what happens in English in terms of my tenses, because that's what we're going to be focusing on here, is seeing what we have to do with our tenses in these different complex sentences. So the first one, if I study, we've got present tense. I succeed, followed by present tense, haven't we? Next one, if I study again, present tense, but look what happens in my next part. This is my second clause, it's called my next part of my sentence, future. I will succeed. Yeah. My if clause has got present. My second clause, here's got present, here's got future. Now, in this one here, the unlikely scenario, if I studied, well, that's past, isn't it? Yeah, so my if clause has got past in, I would succeed. Okay, that's conditional. There's a condition attached to it, isn't it? Okay, I would succeed. And my final one then, if I had studied, okay, that it's actually called it's past, but it's called the pluperfect past tense. Then I would have succeeded. Again, it's conditional. This would have means we just call it conditional perfect. Okay, so that's what's happening in terms of our two different clauses within these sentences. Now you'd be pleased to know that in French, okay, we use the same structures. So as long as you know your tenses, okay, then we should be able to quite easily put these into French. So let's try and see if I can squeeze it on if I scroll across. So if I study, I will succeed. So let's put that into French. So if, si, I study present tense. So j'étudie. Si, j'étudie. I succeed. Well, to succeed is réussir. So I want réussir in the present. In the I form, je réussis. Yeah. So we've got j'étudie, present. Je réussis, present. Just the same as English. Si j'étudie, je réussis. Okay, pretty likely scenario there. Do another one. If I study, I will succeed. The same again. Si j'étudie, present tense, but now I want future tense. Okay, and it's quite important that in French we use the simple future tense. It's the will as opposed to going to. Yeah. If you're unsure about any of these tenses, I'm going to whiz through them. So if you're unsure about your present, your future, your conditional, your pluperfect and things, do go back and watch those tutorials on them. Okay, it's really important you've got a solid understanding of your tenses to be able to form these nice, interesting sentences. So if I study, I will succeed. Si j'étudie, je réussirai. Je réussirai. Simple future. Yeah, je réussirai. Okay, my next one. If I studied, I would succeed. So you want si. Now past, you might be thinking, oh, I know a couple of past tenses in French. Well, you'd be right to be thinking that. We want the imperfect. So, si j'étudiais. So si j'étudiais, imperfect. I would succeed, conditional. So, je réussirai. Je réussirai. Conditional. And do notice, obviously, there's only a slight difference between the simple future, isn't there? Je réussirai, je réussirai. So in terms of spellings, it's only an S, but obviously, can you hear the pronunciation? Je réussirai, it's more of an E sound. Je réussirai, it's an E sound. Okay, so we've got imperfect followed by conditional. And my last one then, this is just for interest's sake. It's quite complex. If I had studied, I would have succeeded, but it's quite nice to know how to do it. It might interest you. So you want pluperfect. So si j'avais, so if I can scroll across, si j'avais étudié, if I had studied, I would have succeeded. Okay, so that's conditional perfect. So it's j'aurais réussi. Si j'avais étudié pluperfect, j'aurais réussi. Conditional perfect. Okay, so depending on how likely you think the scenario is, it's going to affect what tenses we use. But it is the same as English. Just my blues are slightly different there, aren't they? But it might help us if we have a little chart, and you probably know by now I'm obsessed with these charts. So let's draw one up here, and it might help us. So we've got how likely my scenario is. So we've got likely, unlikely, impossible. And then you've got your si. And then you've got your next part of this. That's your si clause, your if clause. So you've got your, let's put that in English. So if, then. And we're going to look at which tenses. I don't like leaving that unfinished. There we go. And now I'm going to be annoyed because the lines are going slightly over. You know, it's going to tidy all that up. There we go. So, your first clause, your second clause. So if the scenario is likely, we said that in our if clause we have, let's go back to blue because I used blue earlier, didn't I? You're going to use present. And then your then clause, so if you look up here, if I study, I succeed, you've got the choice of present, or if I study, I will succeed, you've got the choice of present or future, depending on sort of what exactly it is you want to say. So you can have present or future. Okay, and you could also have actually imperative. Remember, the imperative is what we use to give orders. Okay, so for example, you might have if you're thirsty, drink. You know, if you're thirsty, drink. So in French, that would be si tu as soif, present tense. Bois or bois de l'eau, drink water. Yeah, so that's my imperative. Just make you aware of that. Okay, so you've got those options there. Now, my unlikely, we had if I studied, past, and then conditional in my next clause, didn't I? So remember we said we have imperfect, and then conditional. And my final one, of course, we had if I had studied, pluperfect, I would have succeeded, conditional. Perfect. And those are the rules to abide by, really. I mean, you probably don't need the chart, just think of what we're doing in English. But if it helps you, to remind you, again, you might want to use this chart as a guide. So we're going to do a few more examples to finish off then, using this chart to guide us. I'm going to readjust. I'm getting slightly uncomfortable here on my chair. Let's go with, let's pull this set B. If I run, I sweat. Yeah, if I run, I sweat. So what tense have we got in English? If I run, present. I sweat, present. So let's pop that into French. Yeah, so to run is courir. So present tense, si je cours. And then to sweat is suer. There you go. Perhaps didn't know that one. You learn something new every day. So I sweat, je sue. Si je cours, je sue. Present. Present. Yep. Or we could say, if I run, I will sweat. So think about the difference there in terms of what they mean. If I run, I sweat. I'm just making a general statement, aren't I? Yeah, if I run, I sweat. Yeah. But you could say, if I run, I will sweat. You're kind of implying that you're going to run, aren't you? Yeah, it's likely. So you've got likely and likely here. So in French then, if I run, same as above. Si je cours, present tense. I will sweat, so I want my simple future. So je suerai. Yeah, so that's my simple future. That's my present. Okay, si je cours, je suerai. Next one then. We're going to have an unlikely scenario here. Okay, so one thing, if I run, oops, wrong colour. If I ran, yeah, if I ran, I was going to check my English is correct. Did you say if I? Yeah, we can say if I ran. If I ran, I would sweat. Now again, think about the subtle differences there. What are you saying? If I ran, I would sweat. It doesn't sound likely that you're going to run, does it? Yeah, kind of almost giving an excuse as to why you don't want to go running. And if I ran, I'd sweat. Therefore, I can't do it. You know, so it's unlikely. So put that into French. If I ran, si je. Now remember, past. We said above here in our chart, it's the imperfect in French. Okay, your imperfect past tense. So si je courais imperfect. I would sweat. So conditional. Je suerais. Je suerais. So si je courais imperfect. Je suerais, conditional. I would sweat. And my final one then, my impossible one, if I had run, I would have sweated. Sweat? What do you say in English? I would have sweat. Sweated. I would have sweated. Anyway, you know what I mean. Unfortunately, I'm teaching you French, not English. If I had run, okay. So pluperfect followed by I would have sweat. Conditional perfect. I would have sweated. I'm going to finish this tutorial and go find out whether I should have been saying sweat or sweated because it's going to annoy me. But fortunately, I do know about the French if my English isn't completely right. So if I had run, si j'avais couru, si j'avais couru, j'aurais, conditional perfect, j'aurais sué. Okay, but it definitely didn't happen. Too late now, I haven't run. So it's an impossible scenario. So you can see, little word if gives some really nice complex sentences. If you really ought to show off, okay, you want to use some nice interesting language. It does make things a bit interesting, doesn't it? If I'd done this, then that would have happened, you know. If I won the lottery, I would buy a Ferrari. Yeah, if I had an amazing job, I would live in a mansion. You know, all those different things. If I could, I'd travel the world. So it gives us interesting language, interesting things to say if you want to move on and just be a little bit more complicated in what you're saying. Okay, that's it, folks.